Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Look, let's be real. The world of crypto is noisy. A lot of hype, a lot of fear. So today, we're going to cut right through all of that. We're going to separate what's real from what's just a myth and give you a framework to figure out what's actually going on.
And you know what? If you're skeptical, you absolutely should be. I mean, you see these headlines everywhere, right? Is it a Ponzi scheme? Is it boiling the oceans? Is it going to crash the whole financial system? It's a lot, and honestly, it's confusing. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to cackle these myths head on with actual facts. And we're going to start with maybe the most important but least flashy piece of the puzzle, the thing that actually connects the old financial world to this new one.
All right, first up, stablecoins. The whole idea behind them is pretty simple, right? They're supposed to stay stable, pegged one-to-one with something like the US dollar. But the big question is, are they real money? Or are they just, glorified store points like a video game gift card?
And this is where the difference is just huge. Look at store points. They're literally nothing more than a promise from a company, an IOU. There's no guarantee. But a regulated stablecoin, that's a whole different beast. We're talking about something designed to be a legit financial tool, backed by actual cash and short-term bonds in a bank somewhere, with auditors checking the books to prove it.
And that really gets to the core of it. The point of a stablecoin isn't to make you a millionaire. It's not a high-yield investment. Its entire job is to be boringly stable and useful. Think of it like a digital dollar that you can send anywhere in the world, anytime, day or night. The value isn't in some crazy return. The value is in its usability and low risk.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. But what about Terra/Luna? That thing collapsed. And you're right, that was a spectacular failure. But here's the lesson from that disaster. If something sounds too good to be true, like a high-yield stablecoin, it is. It's high risk. But the collapse of one poorly designed, high-risk project doesn't mean the whole idea of a fully backed, audited, boringly stable coin is broken. They're two totally different things.
So that idea of trust and settlement is key. And it brings us to the next big myth, which is about the technology underneath all this, the blockchain itself. You hear this all the time. It's just a slow, inefficient database. A regular server could do this way faster. But that's completely missing the point.
And to see why, you got to understand this one crucial concept, settlement finality. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's simply the moment a transaction is 100% done, final, irreversible. The money isn't on its way, it's in your account. It's the difference between an IOU and actual cash in your hand.
Now check this out. The old way of moving money internationally, SWIFT, is basically just a fancy messaging system. It sends a message from one bank to another saying, hey, please send this money. The actual money can take days to finally settle. But a public blockchain, it's not sending a message. It is the settlement. The transaction is final, for real, in minutes. And here's the kicker. It happens 24/7 without needing a whole chain of banks to sign off.
Okay, time for the main event, the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Bitcoin, the OG, the big one, the one that gets all the headlines. And we've got to tackle the #1 accusation you hear about it straight up.
Is Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme? I mean, you've heard this a million times, maybe even from people you really respect. But to get a real answer, we can't just go with gut feelings or opinions. We have to look at what a Ponzi scheme actually is by definition.
And when you put them side by side, it's not even close. A Ponzi scheme promises you high returns. It's totally secretive, a black box. And its whole business model is paying off early investors with money from new investors. Bitcoin, it literally promises zero returns. Its entire code and transaction history are open for the whole world to see, and there is no central person or company paying anyone. By definition, it just doesn't fit.
Okay, so if it's not a Ponzi, what about the other big accusation? That it's anonymous money for criminals, right? This is one of the stickiest myths out there. But the funny thing is, for a lot of reasons, Bitcoin can actually be a terrible choice for criminals.
Here's the deal. Bitcoin isn't anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous. What's the difference? Well, your name isn't stamped on every transaction, but a unique address is. And every single transaction that address ever makes is recorded on a public ledger, forever. It's a permanent breadcrumb trail, and law enforcement agencies have gotten really good at following those trails. If you want true, untraceable anonymity for crime, good old-fashioned cash is still king.
All right, but what about this one? Okay, fine, but it's just too slow to be useful for anything. You hear this constantly. it can't possibly scale to handle real-world payments. So, let's look at the number that gets thrown around all the time.
7. Roughly 7 transactions per second. I mean, compared to Visa, which can handle thousands, that sounds pathetic, right? It sounds completely broken. But here's the thing. We're comparing the wrong things.
This is a total apples to oranges comparison. Think of it like a highway system. Visa is like a city expressway. It's all about getting a lot of cars moving fast for small, everyday trips. Bitcoin is like a secure federal highway for armored trucks. It's not designed for speed, it's designed for maximum security and final irreversible settlement of large value. You wouldn't use one for the other's job.
This is called a layered system, and it's how basically all modern technology works. You have a super secure, robust base layer, a layer 1, and then you build faster, more flexible applications on top of it, layer 2s. That's how the internet works, that's how our current financial system works. It's all about having the right tool for the right job. Okay, so if Bitcoin isn't a Ponzi scheme by definition, and the slow blockchain is actually a feature for secure settlement, then where does all the risk come from? Why do we see these massive blowups that look like they could cause a real crisis? Well, the real danger has almost nothing to do with the technology itself.
The real danger is what it's always been in finance: bad management, human error, and greed. It's companies lying about the assets they hold. It's a total lack of transparency. It's execs gambling with customer money. These aren't technology problems. These are classic old-school governance failures.
And that's the bottom line. The technology is just a tool. In the right hands, with good rules and transparency, it can create incredibly efficient systems. But in the wrong hands, with bad governance, that same tool can be used to build a financial disaster. The tool isn't good or bad. It's all about how it's used.
So, we've talked about stablecoins, blockchain speed, Bitcoin, the whole shebang. We've busted a few big myths. So, after all that, what's the key takeaway? What's the one thing you need to remember to make sense of all this?
It's pretty simple, actually. It's about learning to ask the right questions. Don't just ask, is crypto good? Instead, for any project, ask these 3 things. 1, what is its purpose? Is it for fast payments or secure settlement? 2, what's the proof? Can they prove they have the reserves? Is the code open? And 3, what's the governance? Who's in charge and what are the rules? This is your toolkit for cutting through the hype.
And that really is the big question to leave you with. Once you can separate the tech from the hype, you can start to see things differently. It's not about whether this stuff is good or bad. It's about understanding what these tools are actually for, and then asking the really interesting question: which parts of our financial world could we rebuild with them to be better, faster, or more fair? Thanks for watching The Explainer.